So let's bring in our guest now, Khaled Saffuri. It is president and founder of the National Interest Foundation, a nonpartisan think tank. Also joining us is Wael Alzayat. He's an executive officer at Engage Foundation and a former Middle East expert at the U.S. State Department. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. This is a really important issue. I want to ask you, talk to me about the anger, if you would, Wael. At what level is the anger in the Arab American community?
Look, I want to talk about the pain. The pain is what's palpable right now throughout. You have folks who are directly impacted. My own staff have family members who've been impacted on the run in Lebanon, for example, right now for a few weeks. And people are also deeply disappointed. Many Muslim voters, many Arab voters voted for the Biden-Harris administration overwhelmingly. And they feel not only a sense of anger, but also deep, deep frustration. And they're horrified by what they're seeing. And they're grasping really for anyone who will not only listen to them, but change the current policies that are harming them.
But I wanted to ask you, I mean, if you look at Donald Trump's policies in office, I mean, I'm not even going to get through the whole list. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Golan Heights, banning the Muslim ban on travel. He has attacked Muslims, lawmakers, the 9/11 claims. I mean, so many things he has done. I mean, and the way he speaks about Arab Americans is really denigrating. So how are they looking at this and going, well, Harris is worse?
I think, to be fair, the community is not really voting for Trump as much as they're voting anti-Biden via Kamala Harris. There's lots of anger. I personally my wife lost her uncle in Gaza and her cousin in April, so she lost two family members. So this crisis touched everybody. I have relatives in Lebanon, and I have my uncle who fled Beirut to the north. So it is affecting everybody. And the big chunk of the community, the Arab American community in the U.S. are from Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. And that's affecting them. And also others feel the pain of their friends and their neighbors and who lost members. I don't believe that a community is this gullible to vote for Trump. And I think a big number of the percentage will be voting third party as a protest vote. And that will be a loss for Kamala Harris. And also, everyone is concentrating on Michigan and maybe Pennsylvania. But I think Arab American votes and Muslim votes is large in other swing states. Last time, Trump lost Georgia by 10,500 votes. There are 60,000 Muslim voters in Georgia. It might be a small number, but in close elections, it's a very important vote. It's the same in Wisconsin, it's the same in Arizona. He won Arizona by less than 10,000 votes. Biden won by less than. So it's going to matter in these states. And I think this is one of the cases where we don't know the results. If she lost, the elections will be lost because of the war in Lebanon and in Gaza.
You mentioned third party, and I want to get to that because American support for the war in Gaza and Lebanon is a deciding factor for many the Muslim voters. Let's run you through the result of a poll released by the Council on American-Islamic Relations just a day ago. The survey of nearly 1,500 Muslim voters found 42.3% support third-party candidate Jill Stein. She's nearly in a tie with Kamala Harris, who got just 41%, just under 10% of Muslim voters in the same survey said they would support Donald Trump. And so I think that is incredibly interesting. But what do you think, and I want to ask you this, Donald Trump in Gaza, he said, you know, that the closest he came to criticizing is that Israel's bad at public relations. He said Biden shouldn't restrain them. I mean, what's he going to do if he's elected? Is there a possibility that he'll just tell everyone, all the Palestinians, to get out of Gaza? His son-in-law wants to develop commercial real estate.
That's exactly right. Look, he's the architect of the Abrahamic Accords, which essentially bypassed the question of the Palestinian occupation and statehood. Many say that it really fed into the frustration that manifested itself on October 7th. He has said that Palestinians basically are not only terrorists, but that they don't deserve dignity. He used it as a slur, the term Palestinian. Jared Kushner, not only does he want to build condos in Gaza, he's already thinking ahead of reshaping the Middle East in ways that is beneficial to an expansionist Israeli ideology. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he used to visit the United States, he would sleep in the house of Jared Kushner's family. They are that close with each other. And Donald Trump, as you know, has received over $100 million from pro-settlement expansionist donors who want the United States to support the annexation of the West Bank. So whatever he's doing, he's saying in places like Hamtramck and Dearborn, he's just cynically trying to take the Arab vote. But at the end of the day, we know exactly what he stands for. You saw what happened in Madison Square Garden, where it was basically, I mean, honestly, for me as an Arab American, it seemed like a neo-Nazi rally for me, where people were denigrating everyone from Puerto Ricans to Palestinians to Muslims to everyone else. So, and I really think that a lot of Arabs and a lot of Muslims see through that.
So I want to ask you about Harris and her role in the war, the U.S. support for Israel. She was the first person to come out and say ceasefire. She did this in April of last year, a full month before Joe Biden. I've been talking to people who are close on this issue, to people in the White House, and they say that it's not Harris driving the support. It is 100% Biden and a few of his top aides, which we're not going to get into. But are you hearing that as well? And so is it fair to blame Harris for what Biden has been doing?
It's not totally fair, but we have to remember, there was a report in the Washington Post 2 days ago about President Biden had 700 reports of Israeli violation of the use of military weapons in Gaza, and he did nothing. And most of the time, they'll ask Israelis, and they will accept whatever Israel is telling them. So I think it's not fair, but she probably will pay the price for people think that she should have praised the president. At least when she became the candidate, she should have had more sway at the foreign policy. And you see Israel is using these heavy bombs again in Lebanon, the same way they used them in Gaza. And this shows that the administration probably will be responsible for this, and she unfairly will pay the price for this. And like I told you, most of the community, they know who Trump is. They're not that stupid. But, and also it's important to note that the little shows that you saw on CNN and other stations that claim that majority of Muslims are voting for Trump is not true. The Council of Imams in Michigan, they said they encouraged the community to vote for third party, not for Harris or Trump. And most Muslim organizations did not endorse anybody. So to give the impression that the community will be backing Trump is unfair, and it's not true.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you this about Harris, because what do you think her policy would be if she's president?
Yeah. I mean, that's to be determined. One of the, I think, fair criticisms is that she has not spoken in great details about how she would handle the situation. She has called for a ceasefire. She said she wants the war to end, but she has not provided a plan of how she will actually implement it. And I understand, I appreciate, I'm a former State Department official who worked on Middle East policy for 10 years. I understand the pressures and the limitations of where she is, but I do believe she needed to lean in more and distance herself from the president on this policy. I will say something about third-party voting. Voting for third party is a vote for Trump. We have to be very clear about this. In 2016, the margins in Michigan were 11,000 votes, mainly because of third-party voting. And so while I understand that some organizations said vote third party or don't vote at all, my organization, Engage Action, clearly endorsed Kamala Harris precisely not only to prevent Trump administration, but to give us a shot at advancing real peace in the region. And I hope that if she wins, she will move more seriously about that. But third-party voting is going to bring us back Trump.
So very briefly, the census, when they first started asking in 1980 about your identity, the Arab American population has grown by 30%. So I spoke to a woman, a young activist in Michigan, and said, oh, yeah, Trump's going to be awful for us, but I'm voting for him. He's going to be awful for us. But you know who is going to remember that they need us? The next president in 4 years. Which one of you wants to take that on? Because she said, we'll be a force. Is that the way to go?
It's, I think elections, the U.S. is becoming close the same way 4 years ago and 8 years ago. So parties will have to operate differently than what they did. I think Trump learned this lesson, so he's playing it now. I think Democrats didn't learn. It's becoming very difficult for Muslims, and I know Wael might disagree with me, but I ask many people, why don't you vote for Kamala Harris? He said, it's difficult for me to vote for someone that killed my relatives. And so you have to understand their point of view. Yeah. Many Democrats are blaming Muslims in advance, saying, look what they're doing. They are going to hand presidency to Trump. I think it's also the fault of Democrats. They didn't answer the question. And 72% of Democrats in the U.S. want the U.S. to stop arming Israel.
And I do want to not end this panel without offering my condolences personally to you, for your family, and for your staff. I can't fathom the absolute pain that you are dealing with. But I thank you for being on and providing insight into this very, very important topic. So every